Fair use and effect. Hot dog. We're talking about the woman with the velvet voice that defined 90s R&B love songs. Before Lauryn Hill wore her crown, and before R&B had streaming charts, there was a voice. A voice so rich, so pure, so heartbreakingly deep, it could silence a crowd with one note. That voice belonged to Toni Braxton. The woman who made heartbreak sound glamorous, who made pain sound powerful, and who turned her alto tone into one of the most recognizable sounds in music history. When Toni Braxton emerged in the early 90s, R&B was dominated by high notes, belting divas, and big production. Then, in walked Toni, with a tone that didn't soar above the clouds, it vibrated through the floorboards. Her voice wasn't just heard, it was felt. Smooth, husky, emotional, like velvet dipped in honey and heartbreak. She wasn't trying to outsing anyone. She was storytelling, quietly commanding your attention. That's what made her dangerous and unforgettable. Her debut album didn't just introduce a singer. It introduced a whole mood. In June 13, 1993, the Severn, Maryland native debuted her first studio album, Toni Braxton. The hit album was predominantly produced by the ultra-talented Babyface, and it was released under LaFace Records, which was formed as a joint venture and imprint of Arista Records. LaFace Records was formed in 1989 by production and songwriting duo Antonio L.A. Reid and Kenneth Babyface Edmonds. By now, you have probably heard the name Clive Davis. He is the CEO of Arista Records, and his organization handled the promotion, distribution, marketing, and sales side of things. BMG, which stands for Bertelsmann Music Group, owns Arista Records. A lot of your favorite pop stars sprouted from Arista. Namely, Whitney Houston, her cousin, Dionne Warwick, Barry Manilow, and TLC. What can we say, Arista has good taste. Anyway, back to our favorite shorty, Toni Michelle Braxton. Her first single, Another Sad Love Song, was a massive hit. It peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed on the chart for 26 weeks, from July 3, 1993, to October 9, 1993. The crazy thing about this song is that it was not originally written for Toni. Actually, the songs You Mean the World to Me and Another Sad Love Song was written for Anita Baker. When Toni Braxton first started working with LaFace Records, she was signed under a singer-songwriter contract. And this was the exact time that Babyface and L.A. Reid were anticipating submitting songs for the Boomerang soundtrack. So, they asked Toni to sing the demos. Isn't that crazy? What's even more crazy is that they recorded those songs in the bathroom of L.A. Reid's Atlanta, Georgia mansion. Toni's first album has 12 tracks, and we must say that the album is pure fire. The songs that we had on repeat were 1. Another Sad Love Song, 2. Breathe Again, 3. 7 Whole Days, 4. Love Should Have Brought You Home, 5. I Belong to You, 6. How Many Ways, 7. You Mean the World to Me, and 8. Breathe Again. We're pretty sure that everyone on the planet in the 1990s knew who Toni Braxton was. But what most people don't know is that Toni Braxton is actually a mixed chick. Today we're spilling the tea on Toni Braxton's racial background. Toni Braxton's paternal grandmother's name is Eva, and she is 90% Caucasian. Toni describes her as looking like Edith Bunker. For those of you who were not watching television in the 70s and 80s, Edith Bunker is a fictional character from the TV show, All in the Family. It was a 1970s sitcom, and Edith's character was played by Jean Stapleton. I guess Toni referenced Edith Bunker to prove that her grandmother Eva was white passing, and not at all racially ambiguous. However, back in her grandmother's day, race was a huge deal. Apparently, her grandmother attended boarding school and the school administrators found out that Eva was not 100% Caucasian. They took the one-drop rule seriously and wanted to make sure that Eva looked like a visible minority. FYI, the one-drop rule was a concept birthed out of the plantation system of slavery. The rule means that if you have at least 1% of African blood in your genetics, you will be considered black. I think this is the same concept that is plaguing South African pop star, Tyla. A lot of people are turned off of her because she identifies as colored, and not black. Although it is clear that Tyla looks more Indian or South Asian, the one-drop rule still permeates American psychology. The thing about race is that there are no wrong ways to think about it. The concept of race is a social construct, and it is not a real thing. In reality, there is only one race, and that is the human race. However, race has become a self-fulfilling prophecy that has been both a gift and a curse. Anyway, let's get back to Toni Braxton's grandma Eva. So once the boarding school administrative staff found out that Eva was only 90% white, they did their best to let everyone know that she was not like us. They used tea to dye her strawberry blonde hair so that it looked black, then they styled her hair in braids, which was a hairstyle attributed to blackness. Can you believe that? Whiteness was an exclusive club, and only those who were purebred were allowed to enjoy the benefits, or do we dare say, privilege. Later in life Eva ended up marrying Francis Braxton. And guess what, he is mixed too. Francis Braxton is half African American, and half Native American. In today's society there is a subculture of people who want to procreate with fair-skinned people because they think it will make their kids' lives easier. The cliché is that they want their kid to have light skin and curly hair, or good hair. This thinking is clearly rooted in the miseducation of the plantation slavery system and was passed down as a generational curse. However, this was not the case for Toni Braxton's grandma Eva. She actually liked Francis Braxton because of his gorgeous dark skin tone. She also didn't want her kids to be the bearer of bad treatment from both ends of the racial spectrum. She wanted her kids to fit in and thus not stand out like she did. A cool fact about Toni Braxton's legacy is that her grandfather Francis Braxton is the descendant of Carter Braxton. And Carter Braxton is famous for being the Virginia delegate who signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. So now we know that Toni Braxton is not the first famous person from her bloodline. We also know that Toni's father, who married her mother Evailne, is mixed. He has a racial composition of Caucasian, Native American, and African American. When you looked at Toni Braxton either back in the day, or on her reality TV shows Braxton Family Values, or The Braxtons, did you discern that Toni Michelle Braxton and the rest of the Braxton sisters are what society calls mixed chicks? Do you think Toni Braxton gets enough credit for her legacy? Drop your thoughts below.
Like this video. Tag a friend. Come on, subscribe now.